So it almost had a feverish-like type atmosphere. You know, you have 400 people that all share the same vision, and one of that visions is trying to be able to make this mainstream. You know, there's not a lot of naysayers at this conference, but there's also not a lot of people that are out on that further edge. So I've been to conferences before that have been kind of fringe, things that are considered kind of fringe, and sometimes what happens is you get people that are zealots, basically. And the zealots end up bringing down the general quality and the credibility of the group overall. And so what I really liked about this group is that the people aren't zealots. They know the shortcomings of this therapy, they know the benefits of the therapy, and they know the potential of the therapy. And they really want to use sound scientific principles to be able to prove what those benefits are. So that's what really impressed me about this community, because sometimes small communities like this tend to attract a lot of zealots, and you know, you get that sort of attitude that the ketogenic diet's good for everything. And I didn't get that feeling here. You know, they're very scientific. They, you know, want to do things in a very structured and scientifically sound manner. Well, we all have blind spots. So me as a basic researcher, you know, I don't have that clinical knowledge, but I do have a great knowledge about basic biology. Same with the families. You know, their practical experience that they have. The clinicians don't have that practical experience. Basic researchers don't have that practical experience. And same with the clinicians, even though they're incredibly knowledgeable, but they spend their time treating patients and dealing quite often with the side effects of whatever that treatment is. And they may not have the same sort of basic research mechanistic type point of view that I have. So when you get that group together, all the way from, you know, basic scientists, clinician, advocates, families, the dietitians, I think you can, if you can get that group to work together, what you end up creating is something, you know, that's bigger than the sum of its parts. So several years ago, I met an ecologist and at the University of Florida, and we started hanging out together and realized that, you know, we kind of had the same job. So as an ecologist, he'd go out in the field and look at birth rates and death rates and health of a population and how that affected their overall growth. And I do the same in a tissue culture dish. I would look at birth rates and death rates. You know, he'd look at predators out in the field, and I look at predators too. My predators are things like chemotherapy and radiation. And so that was some of our similarities. One of the things, though, that we differed in is that my field has not been very successful at changing outcomes in cancer overall. There are some clear exceptions to that rule, but what the ecologists have done is they've been able to develop algorithms or processes to manage wildlife populations. So basically we tried to make this analogy that I have a tumor population with 1 billion cells. I have a pest population with 1 billion cells. The ecologist is managing this in some way. Could I manage a tumor cell? So could I, as a, quote, oncologist, think like an ecologist and apply that mindset to oncology? And so that's what we've been doing. So some of sort of the main tenets that they use to manage wildlife populations, we've been using those tenets to manage tumor populations. And one of those tenets is to have a focus on non-toxic compounds and to use multiple non-toxic compounds. So this got us into the world of natural products. So we've been using sort of a milieu or a combination of natural products to be able to control tumor growth. So, you know, these are very early days. There are, you know, some preclinical studies that show things work well. However, one of the problems with our preclinical models is that they're informative but not predictive of what will happen in a human. So there are literally dozens of treatments for cancer that eliminate the cancer in a mouse, and they don't work in a human at all. So, you know, that question is kind of loaded in a sense that I think there's some promise to it. I think there probably will be some efficacy. Can I say that? No, because there hasn't been any formal phase 3 efficacy trials that have been done on it yet. But we need to move in that direction. And so I think, you know, Dr. Sheck from the Barrow Institute is starting a phase 1 clinical trial. That's the first step. And, you know, once she gets through that, she'll move on to the next step and move on to the next step. And that's the only way we're going to know if it works in a human, is just have to get out there and do it in a human. But that's expensive. It takes time. It takes effort. And that's, I think, where foundations like Matthew's and the group in the U.S., Charlie Foundation. That's where they come in, because those are the groups that can kind of bring the people together, but they can also bring the resources together, and they can be very focused and directed of how they want to use those resources to move those things along in a clinical manner. Where I think it's going to go, or where I hope it's going to go, is it's going to go into the clinical avenue. We have a fair amount of preclinical data suggesting that this may show some efficacy. We have preclinical data suggesting that it's probably going to be safe. It's not going to make patients worse. So what we need to do is we need to start testing it clinically. And the first people we have to get on board are the oncologists. So I hope where this starts to head is that at the next meeting they make a concerted effort to bring oncologists to the meeting to start to show them, because it's an education issue. And I see this all the time in my field, is that people will have an opinion about something, but yet they don't know anything about it. They just have a feeling about it, or they read something or heard something, and then they're completely negative. But if you can educate those people and teach them of where that benefit is, right, that the data is there to support it, you can change people's opinions and their minds. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, because oncologists really care about their patients. And it's frustrating for them when they see their patients not doing well. They would love to look at other options, and especially options that are safe for their patients to do. So I don't think it's going to be difficult. You just have to get them there so they can talk to all these people. They can see all the discussions going on, and I think they'll fall on board very quickly.